Welcome back to the round of 32 here at Heroes of the Dorm 2016. We're broadcasting live from ESPN's Wide World of Sports on Watch ESPN, YouTube, and Twitch. 32 teams are fighting for 16 spots in the brackets, so prepare yourselves for some more of the most awesome Heroes action ever. This is Heroes of the Dorm.
These games have been fantastic. Oh my gosh. It's getting low. I don't think they're going to be able to save it in time.
Oh, and Melkor taking a lot of damage here, but Zero goes down.
This is down.
It looks like they may have enough damage to actually end this game right now.
They are your heroes of the Dorm.
Hello, friends, and welcome back here to the round of 32 at Heroes of the Dorm. My name is SolidJake, and I'm joined here at the desk by Gillyweed.
Jake, I'm so excited that we get to be back for the round of 32. We had great games yesterday. We've had some really epic games so far today, too. And I know that the rest of the teams are going to make the rest of the day just as fun.
Yeah, so of course, this is the third match of the day, all still the round of 32, and we're going to be looking at the one and only Boston College versus Western Washington. But if you're just tuning in, let's give you guys a bit of a rundown on the competition overview. Now, it all began back on February 20th with the online qualifiers where teams competed from across the nation and, of course, Canada in, the global competition.
Exactly.
From there, we got to our bracket play, which is 64 teams in a single elimination bracket seeded evenly throughout. And then we will finally have our Heroic Four after the entire process, April 9th and 10th in Seattle, Washington. But we have to talk about how all of these teams have been seeded throughout. So we had the 4 regional breakdowns and divided accordingly, and 16 teams from each of those regions have advanced into our 64-man bracket.
Speaking of bracket, Jake, I want to know how your bracket's going.
Oh, Gillyweed, I've got 260 points right now.
Oh, well, that's pretty fancy because I have 260 points as well after the round of 64.
We are tied. Well, guys, this is exactly where we are sitting right now. We're moving into, again, that second half on the right side with Boston College versus Western Washington. This is bracket B. So we're looking at the number 2 seed of the East versus the number 7 seed of the West.
Right. Now, of course, looking at that, we have the stats for both, and we can see that both are undefeated, but looking at average game length, I think that's going to be a really good indication of how this match could play out. 13 minutes, 49 seconds for Boston College so far. That is incredible, Jake.
Gillyweed, I believe that is the second highest average game length in the entire event. That's
right.
That's impressive, which straight up means that Boston College, they have that game sense of knowing exactly when they are capable of ending a game. Many teams are strong at team fighting and strong at bringing, capturing the objectives, but they don't necessarily know exactly when and how to finish the job.
Let's actually take a look at the roster of Boston College. This is a team that I covered during the bracket reveal because they are one of the strongest looking teams, in my opinion, of the entire tournament. So here we've got Apollo, B-Bay, we've got King Plato, Semi-Cute, and Yoro. Semi-Cute, King Plato, and Apollo are all returning from last year's Heroes of the Dorm where they made it to the Heroic Four.
Yeah, on top of that, they have, between King Plato and Apollo, they have tons of tournament experience.
Exactly.
They have played a variety of games, and the competitive side of Heroes of the Storm in the pro scene, they've competed at the highest level as well. So a ton of talent on the squad.
Now let's look at Western Washington, their opponents in this. Once again, we have Captain Misclick, Flashlight, Jaycie, Moonrise, and War Gods 3. Interesting note about War Gods 3, he is a huge fan of Blizzard games, actually wants to work for Blizzard someday.
And they also have 3 returning members this year. So this is kind of a veteran matchup. Already in the round of 32, things are getting a lot more intense for these teams.
It is. One thing I wanted to note about Western Washington is just looking at the survey results that they provided, they already seem like a much different feel of a team. They did provide some funny answers, as all of our teams did, but when asked what makes their team the best, a lot of them responded with, "We aren't." So I think they're looking at this and very logically, not trying to really pump themselves up, but I hope they have confidence because Boston College is going to be a very tough opponent for them.
It's not going to be an easy fight, that's for sure, but we are in fact ready to start the draft on Cursed Hollow for game number 1 between Boston College and Western Washington.
All right, so looking at Cursed Hollow, Boston College are going to ban Abathur. The fact that he can get split pushes, especially because it's such a big battleground, but two, because you have long fights that are drawn out around the temples, or the tributes, it provides a long time that Abathur can get split push and give experience to his team.
Yeah, he's actually just a crazy powerful hero if you know how to play. Very difficult hero to play, that's for sure, but these teams are very, very experienced. That is for sure. Now, Falstad also going to be a ban here, largely due to that priority and the presence he has across the battlefield. Being able to fly from one side of the map to the next is quite useful.
Yeah, it's a big priority for Western Washington. Falstad is one that they picked in both of their games yesterday in the round of 64. So it's one that they highly prioritize, but knowing that they don't have the first pick, they just were not willing to give that up to Boston College. Boston College, though, they can grab Li Ming. Likely we'll see either Apollo or King Plato. These are the two big playmakers for the team on them. Although generally, if they have a melee assassin, they're going to put King Plato on that, as he is the big playmaker for the team.
Yeah, well, speaking of melee assassins, Thrall is the first pickup on the side of Western Washington. And although we talked about the power of global presence on this battleground, you also have to talk about the power of having someone who's just really good at dominating a lane on their own. This enables your team to go for other things like mercenary camps or rotations to try to pick someone off in the early portions of the game, and Thrall is easily one of the top solo laners in the game.
Very true, and you can't discount how good Sundering is for a team. Kevin was talking about how important, so now they're really trying to zone out that role by getting two of the very good solo lane heroes. Zul only really being our next one.
I was going to say, so do you think they have to prioritize Zul now?
They have to do it, yeah.
We've seen some really good synergy with Zul and Li Ming as a pair.
Right.
So
Georgia Tech showed us that yesterday.
Yeah, I would really expect to see Boston College do that here, just because it's almost like their hand is forced.
Yeah, yesterday they did not play him, does not mean that they can't, though. Like you said, they have a lot of experience. For now, they're going to get Muradin, though. And Boston College has been playing a lot of Illidan compositions, and if this is what they want to do,
that's crazy.
Muradin is one of the better heroes to go against an Illidan. So this kind of shows that maybe that's what they want to do.
Yeah, but it's hard to say because Zul, of course, has just been added to the game. So although we saw tons of Illidan out of King Plato when it came to the qualifiers, Zul has now entered the fray, and maybe it's one of his new favorites. You can see his kit is very unique, as he does have that Bone Arbor for a 4th basic ability, and he's so very powerful at pushing out the lanes with the Raised Skeleton trait.
So when you were talking about the synergy between Zul as well as Li Ming, the fact that, and I love how Cloaken put it, it's a kid in a candy store is Li Ming, because Zul just goes in with Poison Nova, hits a whole bunch of the members of the opponent's team, and then Li Ming just comes in and picks them off one by one, getting resets every time. Now here you can see King Plato, one of the leaders of the team. You know, Apollo is the captain, but King Plato and Apollo, they work together as a duo in synergy, and you can even see with the Cho, they play Cho'Gall together.
That's a pretty impressive kill-to-death ratio as well.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we are now going into the mid-bands of the draft, where the teams are going to try to lock their opponents out of some of their strengths. Vala, a ranged assassin, going to be removed, as they don't want to just, have so much flexibility of the melee hero, the ranged mage, and then a ranged auto attack style hero.
All right, Vala has really been increasing in popularity since her changes. ETC will be the ban now. Western Washington yesterday, when they couldn't get Muradin, both of these teams really prioritized Muradin as their warrior, but when they couldn't get him, they actually preferred Johanna. But that was yesterday, so they're wondering, they don't want to have to deal with the potential of ETC, especially because Falstad was banned. Falstad is one of the best heroes to have to deal with a mosh pit, because Mighty Gus just quickly shoos him away. He says, no dance party for us.
I actually want to be a little critical on the ban of ETC, because I think this Johanna pickup makes perfect sense here. When you think of the power of Sundering paired with Blessed Shield, or even just Johanna after a nice big maul landed by Zagara, she's already very good. And since stylistically Western Washington likes Johanna so much, it's maybe Boston College didn't do their research.
It's very possible. We talked a lot about research yesterday, and how because these teams are so busy, it's a potential that they weren't able to do that. But it seemed like the teams who were able to put a lot of research into their opponents fared very well. But
Gillyweed, is this a Brightwing? Oh, Tyrande.
They first picked Brightwing, I think, both games yesterday, or at least was highly prioritized of her. So it could be, but we've got Tassadar Tyrande for Boston College.
These guys are drafting like maniacs. Like, this is like rapid action draft mode. One more pick remains for Western Washington. We know they have a support. We know they have a Johanna, but they kind of need range damage. And Jaina is still on the table.
Yep, Jaina is a potential. I've seen occasionally some Kael'thas, but Lunara will be the pick. So now we are going to have someone who can really capitalize on any of the slows that they have. She can throw out Thornwood Vines. I think a lot of the synergy that comes from Western Washington is how good of a Maw they can land. If they have a Condemn from Johanna into a great Devouring Maw, then they have things like Sundering to push other people away, or they can throw it out on top of that too, and then they have some damage from Lunara to start throwing poison so that they can't escape from the rest of their damage dealers.
Well, guys, now that we know a little bit about the drafts, we want you to head over to Twitter, tweet using the hashtag Heroes of the Dorm and the hashtag of the team that you think will win this matchup. But without any further delay, Gillyweed, we are ready to start game number 1 on Cursed Hollow. Are you excited?
I'm so excited. Boston College, one of the top teams of the tournament, will be in blue with Apollo playing Muradin, Bibe on Li Ming, King Plato playing Zul, Semi-Cute playing Tyrande, and finally Yoro will be on Tassadar.
Bibe's so mysterious with that silhouette. Who knows what he looks like? Their opponents with Western Washington. They have Captain Misclick playing as Rhaegar, Flashlight on Lunaro, Joshino going to be playing Thrall, Moonrise on Zagara, and War God S3 going to be the warrior of Johanna.
Now, I had already forgotten that when they get a Li Ming, often Boston College will switch their standard warrior player, who is Bibe, over to that and then have someone else play it. And so it's very interesting, although Apollo is the assassin player, they switch them out, realizing just who is better with those roles. It's pretty powerful for a team to be able to flex like that, too.
Yeah, definitely good to have that utility and that flexibility with your squad. So we do have the double support on the side of Boston College, and this gives them a few strengths here on Cursed Hollow, and stylistically, I like it a lot. Overall, really just having Tyrande, Tassadar, these are two heroes that not only sustain for fights over a long period of time, but they're very good at stalling out the fights.
Yes.
Now, if you can get yourself in a situation where you have Zul hanging out in lane and doing his best to really push that out, and then you stall for a long period of time with Tyrande and Tassadar, it can really catch your opponents off guard, and you can get a lot of additional experience and just kind of ramp yourself ahead of them.
Yeah, whenever you're on Cursed Hollow, you have to think about how are we going to delay tributes if we're waiting for the rest of our team to get in position, or maybe we have some teammates who are getting some experience for us so that we can get back to the talent tier. And Tassadar and Tyrande are two safe picks who can do that. Tassadar, he can throw out his Psionic Storms. Tyrande can throw out Sentinels too, even from across the battleground, as we do see that she is starting to spec into that Sentinel build. So even once they get pierced, then people won't be able to stand in front of it and be able to stop it from denying the tribute channel.
Yeah, and we actually have a kind of a 1-1-3 split right now too, which is also kind of cool because of the priority of like the very strong solo laners in this game. So we talked about that during the draft, talked about Zagara and Thrall really kind of being dominated by them, but we see that Zul and Tassadar are doing a great job really just keeping up and keeping those lanes from getting out of control. Actually, Zul is winning his lane.
Yeah, I think this is great drafting by Boston College to recognize like, hey, Western Washington is trying to stall us out of these picks, so we'll get Zul now and then they can get Tassadar, who's pretty safe solo laner too. He always has dimensional shift if he gets collapsed upon, as well as Oracle. We just saw it, how it provides vision, so he could check and see if anyone was starting to rotate up to go after him.
Wow, so 2 minutes, the mercenary camps become available, and Apollo and Semi-Q are immediately rotating over to do this while Li Ming maintains the soak in the middle lane. A really great response here, a little bit greedy on the side of Boston College, but considering the lane layout of Western University, they're not in a situation where they can look to really contest this at all.
Yeah, the Sentinels showing that Zagara and Lunara are doing the same thing, picking up the Giants on their side. Both teams like to do that because of the first tribute. One team will get the better advantage because they'll be pushing far away. Apollo going in for the dwarf toss, but Joshino does avoid it, and now Apollo taking some free damage because of not able to pick up that kill, but still they're going to help these Giants push as long as possible. They have more heroes in position for this tribute, but they should be able to stall it until the rest of Western Washington can get into position.
Yeah, but that was a great juke there by Thrall in that fight. We see the Lunar Flare being used to try to stall this out, but the presence is there first on the side of Western Washington. Zul now just barely making his way there in time to assist with stalling this out, and we do see Apollo has tapped the well to re-enter the the battle. When Muradin goes in, they're going to look for that combo with Lunar Flare. We see the Bone Prison Lunar Flare combo, and that will be the first blood of the game on Johanna.
Man, and Johanna is the warrior, the tanky player. That's not you shouldn't be burned down that fast, but that's the power of the Hunter's Mark from Tyrande. And now, because of that, Boston College are going to be able to get the first tribute. And they weren't stalled from too long from doing that, which is very good because of the fact that they have to get all the way back down to the bottom to deal with the Giants from Western Washington.
And that's actually kind of just a big win for Western Washington. It's actually random as to whether the first tribute will spawn in the bottom center or the top center. And since it spawned in the top center, it actually worked out nicely for Western Washington because a lot of damage has been done to these structures from this giant camp.
Yep, and the ammo is nearly drained too, so that will be a potential for somebody to come in and be able to push those down pretty quickly, gain a little nice experience for their team.
All right, well, we do see both of the bruiser camps are being started by each team respectively on their sides of the map, but the experience is slightly in the favor of Boston College. Stylistically, the builds are pretty much what you would tend to see in these games, with Tassadar going for a very just kind of hybrid style paired with the Tyrande going for that max range Sentinel build.
So we have Mental Acuity as the pick for level 4 Tassadar. It's going to reduce the cooldown of Oracle, so he'll be able to provide vision to his team far more often. And I love that they waited. They saw that the bruisers had been grabbed on the side of Boston College, so they went ahead and grabbed them too. Boston College, slightly ahead in experience, but they're both at level 7 for this tribute fight, Jake.
Yeah, and this is going to be a tribute slightly on the side of the map for Western Washington, so unless Boston College is able to set up quickly, it does become a little bit hard to actually successfully and safely invade that location.
Yeah, it's a really defended position, and because of how the rocks are positioned, if you're trying to get out, you can all of a sudden be funneled through in a way that you can take a lot of damage. So we'll see how much they want to deal with this. They may, I thought maybe they were going to leave some in bot and then just deny as long as possible with Tassadar and Tyrande. They have so far done a good job of stalling this out, though.
And that's what we talked about. This is a stall comp, and after they've stalled and poked around, they see the Dwarf Toss in. Misclick taking a ton of damage, but not enough for the kill. That Wolf Form just enough to get away from there. But you see the Bone Prison on Johanna. Bay's a little bit out of position, and he uses that teleport over the wall, but the poison is chunking him down, but the kill actually gets him enough sustain there from dominance at level 4. We see Misclick trying to channel, but the Bone Prison goes down in a double kill here for Boston College.
I love that dominance pickup, saves the day. The Sentinel showing that Western Washington with those two deaths have had to back off, and now because of that, Boston College is getting much farther in experience, and this could be a problem for Western Washington because if they can't get their heroic abilities by the next tribute, that is a free curse for Boston.
Gilly, and we just had a big misplay happen. A 1 minute resource cleanse was spent by Misclick there. I would say it was a misclick because Bone Prison was on Lunara even when she was back at her base. So that's a long cooldown. Boston College knows they don't have that for a while, so they're getting a little bit greedy and going for a very early boss in this game as they're so close to level 10.
But Western Washington, realizing that so many people are off the battleground, are going to come in, spot that out. They have so much vision at their disposal. We see the Wisp on the ground. They have the creep tumors from Zagara. I love how both of these teams have really prioritized vision in their drafts, but here is the situation I talked about. Boston College picking up their heroic abilities, Western Washington so far away from it, and the tribute is about to spawn. Oh, and the positioning could not be more perfect for Boston.
Yeah, this is actually really tough, and they know what's going to happen. They know that Western Washington is not willing to contest this tribute. They have to concede it. So they're doing the correct call. They're going for the boss themselves. Now, Western Washington, they're getting a boss of their own. The problem is there's going to be a curse against them for Boston College while they have a boss.
Yeah, that is a lot of problems for them at once, along with the fact that they still don't quite have heroic abilities. The curse is grabbed, the boss is marching down, and we'll see where they're going to choose to push. They're already, I love that Muradin has already moved into position to start taking out the mid fort too. They're wasting no time of this curse, and this is great plays by Boston.
Yeah, so just keep your eyes on the experience at the top. Right now you see it's level 11 to just about level 10. And that's going to start to really propel forward in favor of Boston College due to this curse and boss in the bottom lane.
Now, it will be Poison Nova for Zul, so we're looking to see that combination with the Li Ming. Also, we have Force Wall, so there's a lot of potential not to be able to escape away once Boston goes in for the kill. All the other heroics on Western Washington side looking very standard.
Yeah, so the boss of Western Washington, it hasn't even made it through the wall yet. Gilly now just making it to that top fort, but this bottom lane is completely sieged up. 1,300 experience will be awarded to Boston College from getting this keep tower, but that is a pretty good two-man maw. Can they follow up?
There goes the Banelings into a Sundering, into a Condemn. They're still trying to take them out, but still it's just not working. Ancestral Healing has to keep War Gods
That
alive.
force wall is massive!
Oh, the body blocks are really big. Actually, Jaycie body blocking his own teammate, and now Johanna's down. Thrall is going to follow with a giant punch from the Mountain King, and Boston are going to walk away with so much experience from the towers, from the kills. They're looking at level 13, and Western Washington's like, hey, we just got our heroics. Can you please slow down?
The top four even stayed alive on Boston College's
man.
side. It's like everything is going their way. I have to give huge props to Yarrow there for the perfect force wall, blocking two targets in. They couldn't get through that small gap that existed and allowed Boston College to get a good number of kills. You see it all here.
Oh, yeah.
They follow up after that maw that was against them. They get that huge damage from the Disintegrate with a Lunar Flare and Hunter's Mark, and they pick up the kills needed to really propel themselves towards level 13.
They also had the root on to Thrall too, so he was body blocking and he just could not move to allow Johanna to get through, so great plays there, making sure that they could pick up both of those kills. Now Boston College picked up their 13 talents, moving back, just trying to get some pressure back onto the battleground. And you know, after you've been cursed, usually you are at least saying, okay, at least we are now ahead in tributes. We are the ones who now can look to hopefully get the next curse. But in this case, it's a complete reset.
All
They
right.
got 3 straight in a row, so Western Washington has just no relief in this game.
No, and they're now about 2 full levels behind, which is a sizable amount here in Heroes of the Storm, and a talent tier disadvantage. So Tirana becomes a much more formidable healer at this point in the game. Tassadar becomes near impossible to eliminate as he's just slippery, going into the shadows, becoming invulnerable. And Li Ming, I mean, Glass Cannon, we've seen that all weekend long, give her just so much power.
Yeah, and I mean, normally you would think that Li Ming would be very vulnerable and be worried about that, but they've done just such a great job with positioning, and Apollo is always in front. So I know they feel very confident in being able to pick that up, especially with how ahead they are in this game too. And now it looks like a lot of heroes rotating around that mid area, trying to escort the Bruisers as far along as they can, maybe even just trying to push back the members of Western Washington, force them to not really be able to get any way back into the lanes as well as into the experience game.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they almost have that level 13, so they can look for a fight at this tribute. That's actually a pretty big deal. The thing is Western Washington, they need a fight, and Boston College doesn't. They could opt to give this up and just try to get something cheeky, like remove that top fort from the game or something of the sort, but they're not going to do anything like that.
What a disintegrate. That gives the resets. Apollo is going full
Oh my
ham
goodness.
into Avatar, but whoa, a bunch of damage is hit from the Lunar as well as the Sundering, and they've already used Shadow Sock, so Tassadar is going to be taken out.
Yeah, that was a huge flank from Flashlight, doing critical damage to the side of Boston College, and they actually end up losing 2 heroes, but the turnaround from Bibe getting the kill on Lunara, and Semi-Cute might even get Joshino.
Semi-Cute being a Tyrande that's going 1v1, that is brave, my friend, but the tribute is grabbed by Boston College despite the fact that they did lose 2 early on. But yeah, they still made it a 2v2, so
Yeah.
still a good trade for them. You know, they are very close to getting 16, so that means the next tribute probably can't get contested by Western Washington, and then we'll once again be in the same position where they're only 1 away from cursing their opponents.
Yeah, that scenario was like one of the few windows of opportunity where Western Washington was going to have a decent shot at an even clean fight. And now it's just going to be so hard at this point. Boston College now locking in those level 16 talents. They're going to get very aggressive in this moment.
Knowing at how good Boston College is, looking at how people have been picking for the bracket challenge, actually 48% of the people who did the bracket challenge predicted Boston College to advance from here, and it's looking very strong for them. 60% voting for Western Washington, but this is going to be the first keep of the game, Jake.
Yeah, look at that aggression. I mean, they know they have the level 16 talent advantage, and they just flex it. It's just kind of looking at your opponent in the eye and saying, what are you going to do about it? We're going to take out your keep, and you can't do anything.
Yeah, being very aggressive, being very forceful. Zool already in the back, grabbing the tribute. The bosses are available. So it looks like they're going to just rotate straight over to theirs. Western Washington, if they realize this in time, could maybe try to run up to theirs, but you know, Hunter's Mark is going to make this go down so fast, and they're all the way on the bottom of the battleground. They're starting to push over to see if they can get here in time, but they know they don't have 16 still.
The Sentinel gets eyes on 3 members moving their way up to the top lane, and Boston College has ample time to contest them, and they're aware of this. The boss is going to pressure down that bottom lane so fiercely with the added catapults now that the keep has been removed, and Boston College is even looking to try to make a death push.
They're moving with the boss. Maybe they're anticipating the rest of the team. There's the Sentinel. It reveals that most of them have shown up. They're at least going to get the Giants to help out with this boss. We'll see if they can get a couple of kills, a couple of key kills on members, then they definitely could push in and win. They know, you talked about it, Jake, they know when they can win a game.
Yeah, I mean, they have the second shortest average game length in the entire competition.
And it's right around this time.
Yeah, it is right around the 13-minute marker, so they're looking to be consistent, but a big maw defensively used by Moonrise, a lot of damage to follow up, but the Shadow Stalk is keeping them up. Avatar from Apollo doing some work there, and the huge Disintegrate will melt through Thrall. The boss has made its way through the core, and the health is down to just 50%, and with the kill on Johanna, I don't think that we can see Western Washington defend this.
Wow, the Poison Nova just allowed Li Ming to go into playground mode, taking out one hero after another at the end. That Maw looked good. It looked like maybe they were going to be able to defend that. But the fact that they were able to take out the keep, they knew it was low from their earlier push. They knew that, like you said, they had 16,
Yeah.
So they knew they could have it. What a quick game for Boston.
You know, this is one of the biggest differences that we're seeing out of some of the top teams in this tournament, is just that you know, eternal instinct of when you can kill your opponent, when you can really go for the maximum value of your push. And that's what they did. They optimized every single scenario. One kill, they turned it to a mercenary camp. You name it, they did it.
Yeah, they know when they have lethal, and they had lethal basically all game long. They looked so fantastic, showing that they can run a lot of different styles too. The double support really working out for them. This play was so huge for them, as well as being able to win the big team fight at 13. The one chance that maybe Western Washington could come back into the game a little bit, but they never gave them that chance. The force walls, by the way, were great all game long.
Yeah, just, you know, some flawless play, good coordination, good synergy, and never once did we see anybody, like, you know, refrain against a shot call. Sometimes you see a player kind of hesitate a little bit to go down to the bottom lane or start working on a boss. They were all on the same page all the time, really trusting and respecting their shot caller.
Yep, good leadership, and that will put Boston College up 1-0 over Western Washington, but this is a best of 3, so that Western Washington definitely has a chance to bring it back. We'll see if they can do it right after this break.
Boston College versus Western Washington. Game 2 is about to begin. My name is SolidJake, joined here by Gillyweed.
And man,
woohoo!
What a game number 1. Boston College showing their prowess on Cursed Hollow. But can they have the same success, the same quick success on the battleground of Western Washington's choice? That remains to be seen.
Speaking of quick success, let's actually take a look at some of the teams that are capable of ending the game, you know, very quickly. These are the teams that are really leading the pack in terms of average game time. Arizona State, a lot of teams' favorites, are sitting there number 1 at 12:56. That is insane.
That is very insane, but right behind them at 13 minutes, 49 seconds is Boston College, and that time that we just had in the last game is going to add very nicely to that, as that's right around where they ended the game. But look at Cal Berkeley, one of the top ones here, already out.
Eliminated.
Yeah, and one of our biggest upsets of yesterday, Harvard was able to 2-0 our returning champions. They won last year.
And you can't skim over Assumption College having an 18-0 kill-death ratio. That is actually fierce. So there's a lot of talented teams here coming into this tournament, but Boston College definitely one of them to keep your eyes on.
And this is one of the players who is bringing them to success. King Plato played Zool last game and showing that he's been able to adapt to this newest hero of the battlefield. Illidan, a lot of games played on them, and I will tell you, Jake, that in a lot of the matches that I saw, and even yesterday, when this team won Game 1, they went for a no warrior composition with Illidan.
That is actually insane. We might be fortunate enough to see that. We might see Cho'Gall as well, because that's something that King Plato and Apollo have done in the past. Former roommates, which really, lends to their power in this game. Look at Apollo's card here. Greymane, Falset, Sylvanas, Jaina, all about those ranged assassin heroes, even though Greymane does go into his working form and get in your face.
Yeah, his kill-death ratio is nuts, 27.5.
Stop.
Yeah, just stop. And Apollo was playing Muradin last game. We talked about his flexibility of roles too, being willing to switch over to that to allow B-Bay to play the Li Ming character. So being able to be that flexible as a player is really great, especially at the collegiate level. But they've had a lot of experience in other tournaments too.
Yeah. So overall, though, Western Washington, they knew what they were doing. They made the right calls. They understood scenarios where they couldn't contest a tribute due to level deficits and whatnot. They went for the correct responses of grabbing the boss. It just came down to their execution in some of the team fights. A few preemptive maws at the start of the fight really worked against them. You want to kind of save maw for that midway point in the fight to really follow up, unless you can land 3 to 4 members at once. Because oftentimes we were seeing maw be cast, and then the follow-up was very weak, and then Force Wall would have the opposite effect of just dismantling their team in return. So I'd like to see them make some adjustments for this next game, because the team certainly has potential to bring it back.
Well, they have chosen Sky Temple as our battleground. So it was our first pick, our first game for all of yesterday's matches, but we will be heading to the very sunny, beautiful oasis of Sky Temple, which we can see right here.
Alrighty guys, well, Sky Temple is in fact a 3-lane map that also has 3 temples that can be controlled by your team by sitting on the point. 5 mercenary camps in total, the 2 bruiser camps in the top, giants in the bottom, and then the boss in the center are all very powerful for giving your team additional push potential and split strategies. When you control the temple, it bombards the enemy team's structures with the laser beams and does critical damage to really help propel your team forward, not only in experience, but towards your victory of eliminating their core.
And Sky Temple, where team fights are very important, but our draft is already underway, and we have a Li Ming and Zul'Ban coming out for both of these teams. Falstad will be the first pickup. I mentioned that these guys really prioritize Falstad, and they banned him in the last game, knowing that they were second pick and how important that they feel he is to a team composition. So now that they are first pick, they're going to grab him. We can see him here. Lovely new art, by the way. Loving the ability art.
That is handsome.
So good. Barrel roll is my favorite.
Yeah, so crazy mobile. He can be there at that last moment, soak an additional wave of minions to get the experience edge for your team, and then fly into battle. I like that early pickup and the fact that we saw Zul'Ban out. 2 very strong draft here by Western Washington, adjusting for game 2.
Now with the Zul'Ban, we see Thrall picked up by Boston College. So once again, solo lane heroes, very important, especially on Sky Temple. The bottom lane, pretty far away. This is a very tall battleground. So having somebody who you can just like love them, but leave them in the bottom lane and allow them to just kind of push and be safely in doing so. They're gonna put that there. But once again, they're gonna grab Muradin too.
Yeah, just well-rounded draft, strong solo laners. Zagara is still on the table here if that's something Western Washington really wants to make sure they prioritize, because those are the 3 big ones in the current meta, but sometimes you do see heroes like Tassadar or even Sonya fulfill that sort of role.
This makes me think that Western Washington has studied Boston College, grabbing Tassadar. It is someone that they prioritize anyway, but getting him so early, knowing that when they run Illidan, they also like to pair him with Tassadar, so maybe just trying to dissuade them from that as much as possible, especially as Boston picked up Muradin. And so here we see Tassadar. Force walls were such an important part of last game, as well as the Oracle being able to provide vision to their team. So again, Western Washington prioritizing having vision-granting heroes for their team.
Gillyweed, we see ETC has been banned on the side of Boston College, and I doubt we'll see Western Washington ban Brightwing. I think there's a chance that they're going to try to go for the double global with Falsenet, Brightwing, Tassadar for crazy mobility on the battleground.
It makes a lot of sense. It's such a large battleground, and you never know after that second temple phase where they're going to spawn. So being able to respond as quickly as possible, especially if you win a team fight and Falstad can immediately fly to a temple and pick that up just a little bit faster, really jumping on having some members of your opponent's team down. They would love to do that. Tyrande will be the ban, by the way, so respecting how much they were able to do. Yeah, and Muradin and Tyrande is a duo we often see together.
Don't want to let that get through, that's for sure. Boston College could still go for Rhaegar, a very powerful support. That is very much on the table still, but they have to be aware of what Western Washington is trying to do. Now, Rhaegar being picked up is great, but do they understand that this could be a Brightwing pickup, and do they try to counter that accordingly?
I think they're going to go Rhaegar, or you thought maybe they were going to grab Brightwing instead?
That was a possibility. With Rhaegar being picked up, very unlikely, unless we see some kind of crazy
That's only Blaze that does that.
Oh, bloodlust. I said it, boys.
Yeah. Just keep dreaming, my friend. Here is Rhaegar. Probably we'll see the Ancestral Healing. It's such a great tool to have. Allowing somebody like your warrior tank a lot of the abilities of your opponents, and then as they get low, heal him right back up so that you can continue fighting, but all of the cooldowns of your opponents are down. So that will be the support grabbed. I keep talking about Illidan, but Rhaegar is the support you want with him, Jake.
Yeah, Illidan could totally work. Illidan Thrall is not out of this world. It is totally possible, but we'll have to see. But I will say this much, Gillyweed. If Semi-Q does go Bloodlust, I will drive to Boston and cook him dinner.
Will you?
Yeah.
You'll drive all the way
it's not that
from
far.
here in Orlando?
I'm from New England. Not from Orlando. Not from Orlando. No. All right, well, Zagara is the next pickup there on the side of Boston College. Big, playmaker hero. We see the power of Maw paired with, Sundering on Thrall being a very, very powerful combination.
Here is Zagara. Devouring Maw, like you mentioned, is very powerful, and we're going to see heroes get dragged into the depths of it. The Zergy Hellhole.
Zergy Hellhole Goop Hit, whatever you want to call it.
Johanna is going to be the warrior of Western Washington. We have one more pick, Karazim. So they're going to be a double.
No Brightwing. I'm a little disappointed, but
too.
I see what they're doing, and it actually is a very powerful draft. The problem is they don't have the most sustained damage in the world. They've got good poke, but Falset, it's Hammerang, and then the Gilnean Cocktail of Greymane. And if they can get that target low, they can go in with Go for the Throat to get the kills. But I think it's going to be a challenge for them.
Yeah, I think we'll see them sitting around poking for a long time until they feel like they can go for the throat. But they do have a potential for Divine Palm if he wants to go in there and start getting aggressive, get that 40% attack damage that you do get in Worgen form. And then they'll have the shields. Vala, the last pick. I wondered if maybe they were going to go for Jaina. Jaina is something that Apollo has played a lot of in the past, but you can't discount the new Vala, man. Teams have been running her a lot.
Yeah, we're seeing way more Vala than Jaina in this tournament. It seems just the power of the new Rain of Vengeance and the auto attack style. It's really risen in popularity.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see for Vala too. A lot of different builds coming out. We still had a multi-shot build today, but we've seen so many more auto attacks.
Did you say emoji shot?
I said multi-shot.
She shoots emojis?
Emoji shot.
Please, Blizzard, give it to us. That sounds fantastic. Let's take a look at the heat map for this battleground, as it's definitely one of the more exciting ones. Now, you'll notice there's a lot of red straight through the center of the map, and that's because that's where the 3 shrines exist. That's where all the action is, but you see the lanes that exist between them. Oftentimes, you'll see teams try to hide in the bushes that exist while the predicted rotation is happening and pick off 1 to 2 heroes in those moments of opportunity.
Right, we've got the temple in the top, the temple in the middle, and then the temple in the bottom. And the bottom temple is really scary to try to engage into too, because there's really only one way in or out. And so you have to be very careful. A lot of times when we see team fights around that specifically, it'll be a warrior down in the temple holding it for just a few shots. But the minute they start to see the opponent's teams moving in, looking a little scary, they will come right back up to the team, because it's just not worth trying to stand around and tank shots. You can easily get separated from your team.
Yeah, very cool. Now, overall in this map, though, we have to talk about just Power Falstad once again and his ability to really be instrumental in getting additional experience for the team, especially in the early portions of the game. The thing is oftentimes when this happens, you can see teams like Boston College who know this is something that's expected, trying to abuse that and look for early game kills. Now, of course, Falstad's kit, we already saw this, but it is so handsome. I mean, Mighty Gust is another thing that we've seen actually highly contested in this tournament.
Yeah.
Now, usually in the pro scene, we just see Mighty Gust used, but there's been 2 to 3 teams so far bust out that Hinterland's Blast, and it's actually really impactful at just blowing up 1 to 2 targets at a time.
All right, so looking once again at the draft, we can see what Western Washington has paired with the Falstad. But yeah, it's been a very big contested pick just in general. You can see who will be playing that Falstad. It will be Moonrise, Flashlight on Tassadar. Seems very apt, Flashlight when you have Oracle. Ja Ishno playing Greymane, War Gods, the Warrior player, playing Johanna, and finally Captain Misclick playing Karazim.
Yeah, so the control is really a big portion of what Western Washington is going to try to do. Force wall, super impactful at just closing off a lane, and Mighty Gust to blow them away. So if you can find a scenario where you can split the team in half and then get Johanna to flank in and throw out that Bless Shield, and then Greymane can just go to town on 1 to 2 members at a time, it can be super, super powerful. But to execute that, to coordinate that level of play, is going to be a big challenge here on the side of Western Washington.
Yeah, some of the teams that we've seen before really struggle with these heroics that can be counter synergy to each other. It can really throw the other one off, like Mighty Gust throwing somebody out of a mosh pit, or Sundering throwing somebody out of something else. So it'll be up to them to make sure that they've actually been able to execute that highly. But Boston College may be in the same boat. You know, they have Sundering as well as Devouring Maw. They have potentially Rain of Vengeance. We've seen that a lot more than Strafe. So they are in the same boat and making sure that they can execute that. But with all of the experience, I think they will be able to.
So Gilly, who do you think won this draft?
Looking at the draft, I really like Boston College. They have a lot of damage. They've got the Rhaegar. They've got Muradin, who's a comfort pick for them, and King Plato is able to be as aggressive as he wants on that Thrall. Once again, it's interesting. We have Apollo playing Muradin. We might have had a little bit of a role swap for Boston College in the past couple of weeks. What about you? What do you think about the drafts?
I'm also with you. I think Boston College's draft is just, more well-rounded. But of course, guys, you can be part of that conversation. And you can vote using the hashtag Heroes of the Dorm, and of course, the team that you think that will be advancing in this game as well. So just use the hashtag Vote Heroes of the Dorm and then vote the team respectively.
So I'm hoping that Western Washington is able to take a deep breath and not get nervous at this point, realizing just not only that they lost game 1, they're 1 game away from losing their tournament lives, but the fact that they lost that first game so quickly is something of a morale drain, and being able to just come back and say, okay, let's just play our own game. We're on Sky Temple. It's where we chose to bring our opponents. Hopefully they're able to do that.
All righty, Gilly. Well, we are ready to jump on into game number 2 on Sky Temple, with Boston College currently up 1-0 versus Western Washington.
And here's the blue. Once again, Boston College with Apollo, B-Bay, King Plato, Semi-Cute, and Yoro on Zagara.
And their opponents on the red side, Western Washington, with Captain Misclick playing Karazim Tassadar, played by Flashlight, Jon Snow playing Greymane, Moonrise on Falstad, and Wargod S3 on Johanna.
In his survey, Flashlight says we are the major underdogs here, and that is definitely the case, especially looking at the seeding as they come into this bracket, as well as how the first game went. But that does not mean anything. We had so many upsets, big upsets yesterday. I definitely think they can pull it out here.
Yeah, a lot on the line here, though, because, again, this is a single elimination bracket. So if you manage to lose this game when you're already down 1-0 like Western Washington is, that means your tournament life has come to an end.
And looking at the laning, we have a couple of different options for Boston College, but since they have both Zagara and Thrall, they're going to bring Zagara down here and allow Thrall to maybe rotate between some of the lanes if they want. They have the potential to be able to catch somebody out of position and pick with both Muradin and Thrall. And as you can see, Muradin and Vala are being pretty aggressive between those 2 lanes, just trying to see if someone is going to move just a little bit too far forward just to get one of those last kills onto a minion.
And Gilly, we actually just got word that the Hearthstone Championship has just ended, so we want to give a warm welcome to all of our fellow Blizzard friends.
Yay!
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, and thanks for hanging out with us. We are right in the middle of a best of 3 between Boston College and Western Washington. We're going to see if Boston College can close it out here and look for a spot at the round of 16. They really want to get back to the Heroic 4 where they made it last year, and of course beyond.
Alrighty, well, the 2 temples are spawning in the top and middle lane respectively in just about 2 seconds. And we're going to see a nice split. Now, Zagara looking like she wants to keep her presence in the bottom. She'll likely force Tassadar to do so on the side of Western Washington, but we do see the lanes are being split up rather evenly.
Zagara is going to stay down here, which means Tassadar has to stay down as well. He's trying his best to get rid of the creep tumors with his Oracle, but Yoro can place those far more often than he can use his Oracle to be able to reveal them and take them out.
Yeah, and I like this in the mid lane. We see a lot of pushing attempted here by Bibe and Apollo, just trying to maximize the efficiency of this temple. If they do a lot of structural damage with their heroes, the temple can actually take a fort very early, and they already have about a quarter level lead in experience.
Yep, it's going to start taking out the tower here by the fort as well, and that'll give them even more of an experience boost. And Thrall starting to move on to this temple. If he and Apollo can just deny it long enough, actually all the shots have been finished, so Apollo needs to watch out and try to get out of here. King Plato going to body block to allow him to get away, but here comes Semi-Q and Bibe. They're looking at Moonrise. He's going to try to fly away. Does he get it? He does!
Man, very, very clutch there by Falstad. King Plato not able to get the kill at that last moment. And the disengage going out there for Greymane, also getting back to safety. But I have to say, that was so incredibly greedy by Boston College. We had Thrall and Muradin diving in on 3 enemy heroes, almost losing Muradin in that situation. Just the barely on-time rotation of Thrall or Rhaegar for the heal was enough, but that was definitely a close moment for that team.
It was super risky, but they didn't lose Muradin, so they know how to make these risky plays. They know exactly where, what position everyone is in, and that Rhaegar was coming up to be able to provide the heals. So although they weren't able to get Falstad, they're at least trying to put more of a fear of their team in Western Washington's minds.
So Falstad players are continuing to run full-on hammering builds in this game, and we also have the Gillyweed cocktail style out of Greymane. So the two of them are going to look for that big ranged burst and then trying to secure a kill with things like go for the throat soon after. We'll see if it works off, but it's definitely a style that's going to be far more powerful in the late game, and it's going to make them very troublesome to try to keep up an experience in the early portions of this game.
Yeah, so Falstad has Gathering Storm, which means every time his hammering hits a hero, it gains damage. But once you get Boomerang at 7, you can actually activate it again so that it hits an area wherever it's at. And that makes it a little bit easier to make it hit those heroes, but still you're right. It takes time to be able to gather in strength, and that's time potentially that Boston College could really take advantage of it, being very aggressive, trying to get more temples so that they can get into a point where Western Washington is in a position that it's just irrecoverable.
Yeah, all right. Well, we do have the single temple in the bottom lane now spawning and under the control of Boston College, who do now have a full level lead over Western Washington. All the damage being done will not be enough to take out this fort, but it is definitely going to propel them further ahead, and Western Washington just needs to get in position to contest this. Falstad trying to soak in that top lane will fly down in just a moment here to look to take this fight.
Everyone being very aggressive. They know that Falstad's still up here. He's flying in now, but as long as they are up there, nobody is pestering Rhaegar, and they're keeping a hold of the shots. But this is the bottom temple I mentioned, and now that Western Washington is starting to push back, Semi-Q immediately comes up. King Plato could be in trouble, gets blinded by the shield flare and taken out. First blood of the game.
Yeah, nice kill here on the side of Western Washington, but they're not done yet. Boston College tapping the well and actually deciding, yes, they are done. They're going to retreat back to their lanes and just maximize the experience, so respectively. Now, something I want to talk about, we're seeing Falstad throw his hammering out rather often, just trying to hit someone willy-nilly, and he's missing a little bit more frequently than you would like. When you have Gathering Storm, you want to be as efficient as possible with that ability because it's absolutely critical that you hit enemy heroes with it in order to continue to ramp up its power.
Yeah, and the dream is that you hit multiple at a time, so you can really just bring it up as quickly as possible. But I wanted to point out, I love Feral Heart picked up by Rhaegar at level 4. Gives him some regeneration when he's in that Ghost Wolf form, knowing that they are up against a double support composition of Western Washington. So trying to make sure that he can keep up with that double support, knowing that Western Washington will be trying to draw out long fights and whittle down the members of Boston.
Okay, well, so far with that heroic advantage, we do see the big power spike, and the consistency of this event for Vala players. Reign of Vengeance continues to be the trend. Paired with Sundering, that does give them this crazy initiation potential on their side, and they're looking to continue to flex that advantage in this bottom lane.
They're going to start to push in onto the fort with the minions, as well as Falstad getting taken out up in the top lane means there's nobody soaking that lane for experience, and Thrall can feel pretty free to push in on the towers up there as well. And the first fort goes down.
Yeah, first fort down. Still no heroics on the side of Western Washington, but the backup is here for Boston College, just continuing to roam around. Looking to actually steal this giant camp. They have a very small window without those heroics for Western Washington, and they're just going to take advantage of that in this last moment. But that is their final window of opportunity, really.
All right, Western Washington doing okay at keeping up with experience, but losing Falstad was pretty unfortunate up in the top. But at least he does have flight, so he was able to come back as soon as he respawned and not lose out too much from that. Now, looking at what we have, we will be having Temples fairly soon once again. In fact, they're respawning in just now 15 seconds.
Double Temple top and bottom with Giants again in the bottom lane. It looks like we're just going to have Boston College keep their presence here on the lower half of the map. This is often preferred due to the fact that the boss is in this vicinity.
Oh, top. Sorry, I thought Falstad maybe was going to get engaged on, but he's all right.
All right, seven-sided strike not doing a lot of damage there, but the force wall is good and a completely lit whiffed maw from Zagara. Vala way out of position does go down, and that is a huge victory for Western Washington.
Ancestral Healing was also used pretty early on Zagara, not maybe knowing that she was going to throw out the Devouring Maw, which meant they didn't have that for Vala, although Vala got bursted down pretty fast, so it may have been even too fast for the Ancestral Heal anyway, but either way, it's now down. It's a pretty long cooldown that Boston College can't be as aggressive, so a good bait as well as a grab on Vala for Western Washington.
Yeah, I just think they weren't expecting the flank there from Western Washington. I mean, really well played by them, just invading very quickly the moment that the temple did spawn, and they are managing to get full control in the bottom lane. So experience-wise, they've caught up significantly. They're now within that same level, but they will be down a talent tier for a short period of time.
Especially because Boston had two members up in the top, and they were trying to grab Falstad. So Western Washington realized that, and they could be more aggressive down in the bottom. So maybe just a little bit too far forward, but either way, still Boston has a full level lead, and we'll see what they try to do with it while they do have this advantage.
Any cool talents we see being picked up here? No, more or less the standards, what we would expect from the heroes across the board, but it still does give them a nice boost in power versus their opponents.
Whenever we see this double support with Karazim, or a lot of times, I know we had it once yesterday, Karazim has been able to pick up cleanse, which is a nice thing to have. There's a lot of crowd control, stuns, roots, etc. from Boston College, so having that's nice, especially with the change that came out for Karazim. Buffing overall his heal that comes from Breath of Heaven so that it's not as necessary to get Echo of Heaven. It's still a great talent to get, but especially with the shields from Tassadar, they can feel a little bit more comfortable with that cleanse.
Yeah, all right. Well, level 13 here on the other side as well. An Unfettered Assault will be picked up by Greyman, just giving him a bit more mobility when he's in that Worgen form. We do see a huge rotation up to the top, trying to find someone out of position. Captain Misclick will gain control of this watchtower and force Murden back.
Western Washington could be looking for a fight. They know that although they're on the same talent tier for a little while, Boston is still a full level ahead, so they, at this rate, will get to 16 first. So they are trying, both just rotate around as much as they can to try to find somebody out of position, but Boston playing it pretty safely here in this game.
I got to give huge props to Western Washington, though, because they know they need to be aggressive to make anything happen.
Yep.
And they're roaming around trying to force a mistake out of Boston College while Boston College is rotating around. In game number one, we didn't see that at all. It was just Boston College dictating 100% of the game. But Western Washington looking so much more comfortable here on Sky Temple.
Yeah, it's a much different game for them already. They've been able to keep up, make sure they get their own mercenary camps this time, and we see Joshno grabbing this as the next temple phase is about to activate. It will be just a solo temple, and looks like Boston are going to grab their giants first so that they are pushing up against those of Western Washington. They may even forego some of the shots just to push out and make sure that they have that nice push during the rest of the temple phase.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That's going to be a good presence there in the bottom. Of course, Falstad could respond to it and fly up if he does try to get in position. And King Plato trying to chunk out some damage. A nice force wall, really splitting up the team of Boston College. But Johanna is taking some critical damage and might even go down, forces out the Mighty Gust.
Wow, and she is shielded from Tassadar now, but it is a problem. She may have to go back and tap a well if she has that well tap, but Boston, realizing that they've been able to chunk down Johanna so much, starting to get more aggressive. They have Yoro as well now after she was able to help their giants push in. So now, especially with them being so close to 16, Washington soon, we might see them just back off and allow Boston to pick the rest of this
They
up.
should have left already because they've got mercenary camps in 2 lanes, and Boston has that imminent 16, which is now here. So a bit of a misplay for them staying around as long as they did, but a big collapse in the mid lane on Boston College, going for a kill. Rain of Vengeance picks off Greymane. Excellent play here. The aggression of Boston College really paying off.
Jake, what a low kill game we have so far. 2 kills only on each side. 7-sided strike being used on King Plato, but he makes it out of the range of that. Iron Skin being used for War Gods just to move back, but the aggression continues, and why not? They have 16, but
The
a mighty
Gust
Gust
from
is gonna
behind,
push
pushing them
in.
into the base. The Maw has to be used desperately, but Moonrise is way out of position. Blessed Shield being used to try to stall out, but the Wolf of Thrall is too much. Even Captain Misblick in for trouble right here, but the Radiant Dash does get him out.
Force Wall is going to hold a couple members in, and Apollo is fairly low, trying to get away, but slowed by the keep. But a great Ancestral Heal ensures he will be able to get away.
Yeah, that big cooldown paying off there to make sure Apollo gets out. In the end, Boston College picks up a couple aggressive kills and puts on some great pressure into that middle keep.
So level 16 almost here for Western Washington, but a couple of people down. Checking the boss, but I don't think we'll see Boston College. It's too close to 16 for Western Washington, and they know that Falstad will be up, and you never want to go for that boss when you know that you've got Mighty Gust on the other team. It's so risky to do that, and I think we've even seen that earlier in the day happen in one of the matches that Trikslyr and Cloaken casted. So you really have to be conscious of Falstad and where he's at, and if he can fly in to that boss and steal it with the Mighty Gust.
Yeah, but fortunately for them, they're on the same talent tier, and this is when Greymane starts to get really powerful, and you can look at that build of Falstad. It's just purple balls of lightning and death, and that's really how it feels when he throws it at you. But that huge kill that just got in the top lane on Thrall is also massive, so Western Washington really just kind of minimalizing that big pressure that exists on them, but they're not going to be here in time to stop this boss. The Gust was used, but this is not something Falstad can do on his own. Moonrise just paid with his life, and that is not the way you want to see it happen.
Oh man, they don't have Thrall, but they're still going in. The Force Wall trying to allow them to get back so they can defend this boss. If Boston College can take out more people here,
oh, that
then
totem!
there's less defense for the boss.
Earthgrass Totem completely nullified the unfettered assault there on Greymane, just locking him in place and making it so he cannot go anywhere. So really nicely done there by our Rhaegar player. In Boston College with this boss in the bottom and 2 temples spawning are looking to be in a very solid position.
Yeah, they can already get into position for the temples. Thrall is up just now. Falstad will be up in a few seconds too, and he can always fly into where they need to go. Boston is on both of the temples, so they have to realize that Western Washington can see this. They know both of them are active, and they're going to come with all of their force to one of them, and it looks like it's going to be that bottom one. So Rhaegar realizing this, moving away, going back to his team, and they will be able to get the first keep of the game down.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, middle keep just went down on the side of Western Washington, and semi-cute. Huge props to him all game long. He knows his limits. He knows exactly when to save his Ancestral 4, when to drop that totem, and when to leave in situations when he's solo soaking a bottom temple.
Yeah, but they got like a lot of the shots out of that.
Oh,
so
man.
just getting every little bit that they can, and Boston College so good at just their game sense overall, even pushing up into the top to just put whatever damage they can on structures. On these battlegrounds where the objective directly attacks your structures, any amount of damage that you can put on saves some of those shots for more critical structures like keeps or, of course, the core.
I love this aggressive play we're seeing all game long. I mean, Boston, they go up to the top lane, they force the response out of the enemy team to hearth back to their base. So when Western Washington, what they want to do more than anything right now is soak the lanes. But if they're all forced to respond to try to save that top keep, they can't get that optimal soak. So they're constantly losing experience due to the phenomenal play of Boston College.
Right, they have been dictating once again. It was harder for them this game than the last game, that's for sure. But they slowly but surely have started to wrest this game into their control and be able to dictate where Western Washington has to respond, where they have to go, making them play Boston College's game.
Well, this certainly looks like their game as they are closing in to level 20 Gillyweed, and this is when they're going to look to seal the deal and try to close out the series. Once level 20 hits, that's going to be the scenario where we see them get very aggressive. We've seen this in game number 1. In game number 2, whenever they have a talent tier advantage, they're super in the face of Western Washington, and I expect it to be very much of the same.
Yeah, they'll have a lot more escape with Bolts of the Storm. They could have some rewinds to potential Hardened Shield if they want to go that route for Murden, or rewind to provide him with more stuns, more control for the rest of his team. And he's thinking about what he wants to do there, but we see the 3 bolts, and it will be the rewind. So both he and Rhaegar will have a lot of tools for their team in those fights.
Yeah, some just light poke in here. They don't want to necessarily dive on the keep as that's very risky to do. And there are, in fact, mercenaries in the top lane. Double temple spawning, it's not enough for Boston College to end the game, but they are just going to go back and soak the mid temple. You think they'll look for a fight?
Western Washington? they're pushed into a pretty bad position. If they don't go in for these temples, at least they know that once they see both activate for Boston, that they're split. So they can just go to one with all of their members and maybe try to catch someone there. But since the temples are so close together, Boston can have people floating back and forth. They're going up to top. They know that this is where they're going to try to do. They find King Plato. He's just going to walk away.
Just hanging out, throwing out some lightning, and the rotation up here. We see Murden in the face. Pop an Avatar very early in this battle
on their way.
as he puts himself in between, but a huge 7-sided strike actually mitigated largely from that Mighty Gust of Fallside. A big Sundering going out on 3 members. They managed to blow up Tassadar very quickly, and Fallside will fall soon after. Greymane has no chance of survival, and this is looking like a full-on team wipe.
The Sundering into the Rain of Vengeance was ridiculous. It completely melted one member and brought Greymane so low, and now they say, forget about the temples. We want the game. We want the core. We want to go back to the round of 16 and keep moving on. Boston College with a quick 2-0 in this game, in this series over Western Washington.
Yeah, I mean, they were a top 4 finalist last year, Gillyweed, and they have shown that they still have what it takes to go with the best. Boston College will advance to the round of 16 in Heroes of the Dorm 2016.
How fitting.
Oh.
Great play by Boston College. Western Washington really did bring it back a lot more in that game. They
Much
made
better play.
Yeah, they made it a lot harder for Boston. At least they made their average game length go up a little bit. So at least they have that win.
A small victory, but unfortunately that means Western Washington will be dropping out of Heroes of the Dorm, and Boston College, our great, glorious East Coast team, will be moving on.
They are one step closer to getting back to the Heroic Four, maybe even getting better results than they did last year. I believe in your bracket you have them going all the way to the finals, Jake.
I see him in the top 4 again, Gillyweed, especially with the synergy in the play and the shot calling of that team. They just look too clean, even busting out, not in this series, but anti-warrior comps. No warrior, running just with Illidan and whatnot. They have the diversity of what it takes to be one of the best.
Yeah, that's something that we see only from a lot of the really top professional teams.
Yeah.
So their ability to do that, to know exactly when to do it, is really fantastic. We didn't see it here though, so maybe they're just wanting to play safer. They want to make sure that they are able to not lose even a single game and get their flow messed with by Western Washington.
Well, we actually have a very special interview set up for you guys with Apollo. Welcome, my friend, and congratulations on that match.
Hi, thank you.
So, Apollo, you've been around for quite a long time here with Heroes of the Storm. How are you feeling about the current layout of the competition?
You mean like competitive scene or like our collegiate?
I mean, compare Heroes of the Dorm last year to this year.
So last year, I feel like nobody really knew what they were doing, including us, except me, like fan. And then so everyone kind of just went in and started learning things. And this year, it's like much more competitive. So I guess it's slightly more stressful, but teams are just trying a lot harder and practicing a lot harder.
So for you personally, I mean, what do you think your chances are of making it all the way to Seattle?
I think it's pretty good, like at least 50-50. I mean, UTA is who we're expecting to play in the top 4 if we make it that far, but it should be a pretty close game.
So, Apollo, you guys have played a lot of different compositions, but we've seen you in the past play Assassins, and even our scorecard that we had you doing that, but you're playing Murden this time. So have you swapped roles, or are you just doing whatever happens to be the composition that you get?
We're just trying things out right now still a little bit, which is kind of weird because we're already in the middle of the tournament, but I really like Murden on the hero, and I think B-Bay is a little bit more comfortable playing like the DPS roles in that kind of scenario, so it does depend, but yeah, I just really like playing Murden.
Had you done much research into Western Washington, or do you just have your sights set on UT Arlington and that Heroic 4 spot?
We've been doing a bit of research on every team, but mostly focusing on UTA, like not to disrespect the other teams or anything, but that's just who we expect to play in the top 4, and it's going to be a really, really hard game.
Well, good luck to you. Your play looked so fantastic. Please give your teammates our praise and congratulations, and good luck next weekend in the round of 16.
All right, thank you.
And remember, you can attend that. That will be a live audience. You can buy a premium ticket for just $15, if I'm not mistaken. And general entry is, of course, free. So if you're a local, don't miss it. And guys, we'll be back with our next match in just a minute. So stay tuned for some more Heroes of the Dorm.